Welcome back to our special coverage of the White House Correspondents Dinner. And I learned a little something in the commercial break, Mr. Deal Hughley. I learned that you said no to hosting this dinner.
Well, because they wanted to know what jokes you were going to tell.
Who's they?
I guess I don't know if it was him or his staff, but they wanted to, President Bush's, they wanted to have us tell what jokes we were going to tell. And the only reason to be in front of powerful people like that is to make them. How could I be a comedian who sees what goes on in the world, knows that, you know, every time you turn around there's a black kid shot, or every time you turn around somebody gets killed by a drone, or every time you turn around some state is making some law that makes it harder for gay people to have a pizza and not.
You're a little exaggerating.
No, but I'm just saying.
I get your point.
But isn't that comedy? Comedy is exaggerating.
There you go.
It's supposed to make people go, well, why did you? Like, to me, when Colbert did that, that's the only reason to do it, is to make people.
So the little history here, if you haven't seen it, in 2006, Stephen Colbert really pushed the envelope, and you saw some very uncomfortable moments between him and then President Bush. And some people loved it, some people hated it. And a lot of afterwards, they were, I think, a little worried about who goes the next year.
But I bet comedians, well, I can speak as comedians, we loved it. We love the idea. If you're the same guy on stage in front of a concert as you are in front of the most powerful people in the world, that's a level of confidence. And when you recognize yourself in either one of those places, I think that's the only way to do something like that.
Tara, what do you think we're going to hear from the president tonight?
I think that the president will put on a good show. I mean, he has good comedic timing, and in the past, he was funnier than Joe Hale was last year, actually. Joe McHale, yeah. So I think that he's going to pop some fun at himself. Definitely, he's going to go after journalists. That's what they do. I mean, the whole thing is about self-deprecation for the most part. So I'll be curious to see if he touches on any of the racial controversies that have gone on, or any of those things that are a little bit more controversial. I'll be curious to see if he uses this as an opportunity to throw some humor, but then get in a couple of jokes.
Interesting you say that, because I asked Cecily Strong about that, who's hosting tonight, and she said, I don't really feel like it's appropriate for me to go there.
Right.
However, she said just because she said of her personal experiences, but she said as a woman, there's a lot I can make fun of in terms of the breaking through the glass ceiling still, and talking about the challenges that women still face. So I think we're going to listen out to that from her as well tonight. It'll be interesting.
I'll be curious if there's any Hillary jokes tonight.
Ah, indeed,
of course
indeed.
There will be.
I hope so.
Indeed. All right. Well, it is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and all eyes are on Washington, D.C. right now. It is certainly the place to be. Welcome back. This is our special coverage of the annual White House Correspondents Dinner. I'm Poppy Harlow here with my great team in New York, with you through the evening for all of this. We're going to bring you President Obama live. We're going to bring you SNL superstar Cecily Strong live, and some of the biggest names in Hollywood are right now mixing it up with the politicians on the red carpet. Dinner is about to get underway in just a few moments. A little later, we're going to take you inside, where, as I said, President Obama is going to throw out his best jokes. Of course, you're going to hear from Cecily Strong as well, who has been preparing for this, she told me, for months and months. And as everyone makes their way inside, let's take a look at some of the best moments from the red carpet.
You're obviously toying with the idea of running for president. You all but said you would yesterday in Richmond. Tell us about that. Are you going to?
Well, we're looking at it very seriously. The country is going to hell. Such bad decisions are being made. We're not respected by anybody. So I'll be making a decision fairly soon. We've had great response. I mean, nobody thinks I'm going to run. That's the only thing. They don't.
Well,
think
you've
I'm
toyed
gonna
with
run.
it before,
Well,
and
I've
you
looked
haven't.
at it before, but unfortunately, Mitt Romney didn't carry the ball very well, and he failed us.
My heart has been pounding. This is so out of our realm, but I am so honored and so excited to be here.
It's so special to be here to celebrate media and to really, just enjoy each other's company and to all be on the same team for a night. It's so special, and I know Tara wants to do a flying squirrel at the president.
I need to meet the president. This is the thing. I am going to be that girl that's like,
Hi!
Well, so what would you say to him? You have to have thought about
No,
that.
I haven't, because if I rehearse it, it's going to be awkward and weird. So I'm just going to go with it.
I feel like boxers or briefs definitely comes to my mind first.
That's a Johnny question.
That's a Johnny question.
You've talked to Bruce. Tell me a little bit about sort of the process that Bruce is going through, and also the advice you gave Bruce.
I think a lot of people tuned in last night to this special, perhaps expecting to see some sort of media spectacle, and what they saw is a beautiful human being who is a parent, who deeply cares about their family. And I've always believed that any transgender person who has who comes forward to tell their stories and live visibly is a revolutionary thing in a world that tells us that trans people shouldn't exist.
When people think of Washington, they don't always think, wow, that's a technologically advanced place. So what can Silicon Valley really do to kind of lead the way when it comes to Washington getting itself together when it comes to tech?
Well, we've hired a number of people that were based out of Washington, some people from the White House, and I do think that Washington is moving forward quite quickly, becoming more technologically advanced. You're starting to see it with a lot of the campaigns. And I think the more technology in Washington, Silicon Valley and Washington can work together, the more we're going to be consistent about what the people want and what the governments want. So I think it's a really important thing to happen.
All right, let's go to the lady having all the fun, talking to Donald Trump, talking to the founder of Airbnb. You having fun, Brianna?
I'm having a wonderful time, Poppy, and I mean, you just saw all those. First off, I wish you were here, girl. I will tell you that, because it is a good time.
We were going to go party. We can tell people that. We were going to go to all the after parties.
We were going to go to the after parties, for journalistic research, obviously.
Totally.
But it's just an amazing time, because you see in all of those sound bites, you've got entertainment colliding with politics, colliding with Silicon Valley. And you have Donald Trump, who's a nexus kind of both. Is he going to run again? And you also have people who are talking about important things in the news right now that also have political consequence. For instance, Laverne Cox, who really broke a ceiling for transgender actors, talking about Bruce Jenner, who she's given advice to. Of course, he just came out and said he's a woman. He's struggled with being transgender since he was a child. We've been able to speak to Martin O'Malley, the former Maryland governor, who is really considering a run for president. Is he going to take on Hillary Clinton or not? So this is a very interesting evening. It certainly has notoriety. At times it has controversy. And we're waiting for the show to get underway, where we'll be able to see Cecily Strong from SNL, a rare woman comic, I will say, who is hosting this event. And of course, we'll hear President Obama as well.
Right.
He's normally pretty funny. He's got a lot of really good comics who help him write jokes.
Yeah, and good comedic timing. I think all my guests agree on that one. Hey, Bri, I mean, you are the CNN reporter who covers Hillary Clinton. She's not there, but Martin O'Malley is.
She's not here, and Martin O'Malley is. Of course, she has total name recognition, right? So Martin O'Malley is very far down in the polls, single digits compared to her. And so he has to come and really put in a lot of elbow grease to try to get people to know who he is. She has some of her top aides here, though. Huma Abedin is actually a guest of CNN. She's the vice chair of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And there are a number of other top officials who are now working for Hillary Clinton, but who used to work for President Obama, who are here tonight. So this is a lot of, high-powered hobnobbing between Hollywood and Washington.
And interesting, too, Bri, I think of the people toying with an idea from the GOP for a run for the White House. None of them are going except for John Kasich, right?
Yeah, that's really fascinating, because even though I would say you have a lot of Republican politicos, you don't have a lot of candidates. And a lot of times Republicans will tell you that they feel that Hollywood, at least the vocal part of Hollywood, is a more liberal set. So this is a venue with a lot of celebrities where they think that perhaps Democratic candidates are going to be more comfortable, and perhaps there isn't as much for them to garner being in a crowd like this. But, I would love to see them all come through, because this is a fantastic venue. Even though we're here looking at beautiful gowns, talking to people who have premieres coming up, it's always a great place to make some news, too, in this venue where people might be caught off guard, politicians might be caught off guard, and maybe slip us a little information.
Yeah, they may have just had a glass or two of champagne, which is always helpful in opening up the dialogue. Brianna Keilar, thank you very much. Tara,
That's exactly why they're not there.
You were quick to point out to me, no, but on a serious note, they are in Iowa.
Yeah, a lot of them are in Iowa. There's a Freedom and Religion Summit this weekend in Iowa. So, of course, Iowa being extremely important, the Iowa caucuses. So the hobnobbing and elbow grease and shaking hands with real people, the voters of the United States who matter.
Not all the real people here at this dinner?
No, this is a fantasy land. Average American people could care less about this. They look at this and go, oh, this is wonderful. but this doesn't affect my life every day. I'm losing my business, my taxes are high, I'm losing my health care and my doctor. So the presidential candidates, of course, are going to be out in Iowa talking to those people.
Very interesting point, right? When we look at this election, as many issues as are very important, one of the key issues, if not the key issue in this election, is going to be the economy and the middle class and the income gap. How do you think the president, if at all, Patrick, addresses sort of the real people issues this evening?
I mean, it's impossible, I think, in that crowd. I mean, let's face it.
Look,
It's a political immediately.
But everyone can watch it right here on CNN, so he is talking to much more than that room.
Well, right. You've got to speak to the 2,600 people inside, and you want to speak outside. But, I think to your point, I mean, people outside of America, may not care about this. I actually think they do care about this, because I think that if you are somebody outside the Beltway, outside of the Acela corridor watching this, you're very much looking on camera and you are seeing a town that is very impressed with itself, that's very enamored with itself. And you see big business viewing this as probably the single best opportunity to lobby Washington. And if you are those people, for whom the American dream is just out of reach, you're looking at that saying, those are the people who are supposed to be, taking care of me. Those are the people who are supposed to help me out. And also just how out of sync are their priorities when here's our biggest night, just a huge sort of orgy of self-celebration. And then people outside the Beltway, their viewpoint of Washington is that you've got nothing to celebrate. So there's a huge disconnect here.
Right. I don't think they view it positively. And when I say they don't care, they're like, this has no bearing on my everyday life in that this is because it is so self-indulgent.
Quickly,
we agree,
before we go to break, DL.
This is to a lot of people, most people in this country, is like the Oscars were full of movies nobody saw. Like that's what it is. It's like the Oscars full of movies that nobody saw, or cared about. It's like so. I think that it is really much like Hollywood or much like music. They have these moments where they do a victory lap and everybody talks. They feel good about themselves. And for most people, we would know who any of these people are, what they do, what they represent.
Self-admittedly, as someone who spent 20 years in Washington, I've been to 2 of these dinners, and for those of us in D.C., they call it, ugly people Hollywood in Washington.
I've seen a lot of pretty people
I know, tonight they are, but for the most part, it's not as glamorous. They don't look at D.C. as glamour. But I'm telling you, you do feel a certain, you watch this and you point out, oh yeah, that's the undersecretary for such and such. Nerds like me, right, that's what I'm saying, inside the Beltway. We watch C-SPAN when we don't go, and we can pick out those people.
Nerds Unite. I am a proud nerd who needs to get a commercial break in here, folks. All right, so if you are the head of the White House Correspondents Association and you want to book comedian Cecily Strong to headline the dinner, who do you call? Who do you call? Her publicist? No, you call her dad. Seriously, that's what happened. How the SNL superstar found out she was the one.